Hello, and thank you for joining me today on Loyal World Info. Another day of the globe spinning, another day of global news to digest. I offer a sane, rational voice in an insane, rational time. I will be your host, and let's get into today's topics. Okay, today is September 7th, 2020, and the topics of the day are a fire on a tanker, oil spill in the Indian Ocean, Russia cracks down on transgender rights to sex change, China wants U.S. to cease official contact with Taiwan, China encourages potential spread of virus by allowing illegals free rein into Thailand, Cambodia's new internet firewall, Korea beats out the USA in tank sales to Australia, elephants relax during COVID while workers stress for cash, and where's the beef? Sole boat survivor dies. The search for cows. Stay with me and let's get into the stories. So our first topic of the day, raging tanker fires sparks fear in the new Indian Ocean disaster. And this was posted in the Thailand newspaper. So, Colombo, Parmesan registered oil tanker burned out of control for a second day off Sri Lanka on Friday, raising fears of a major new oil spill in the Indian Ocean. Sri Lanka is technically almost by China, if I recall right. Sri Lankan Navy and Indian Coast Guard fired water cannons while an Air Force helicopter dropped water on the drifting New Diamond. More Indian Navy vessels were heading to the scene to help fight the blaze on the tanker, which was carrying 270,000 tons of crude oil and 1,700 tons of diesel. One Filipino crew member was confirmed to have died in an engine room explosion on Thursday, what sparked the alert, the Sri Lankan Navy said. The other 22 crew, 5 Greek and 17 Filipino, were taken off the 330-meter vessel, and the fire had not spread to the cargo by mid-morning on Friday. The ship was on its way to Kuwait, to the eastern Indian port Parsidid, which is issued a distress signal 60 kilometers from Sri Lanka's east coast. As the fire grew, the stricken vessel drifted about 10 kilometers closer to the shore. Indian's Coast Guard said they were with 2 meters crank into the new dimensional hole in the 10 meters above the waterline. Both India and Sri Lanka have deployed reconnaissance planes to track the ships. Officials said, however, Sri Lanka's district manager center said there was no immediate danger of oil spill. Well, in general, that's all pretty cool. So I kind of wonder who owned the oil tanker, India or China, for one. And if you remember, in America, we had a big oil spill, BP oil spill off the Gulf of Mexico. So do you remember that a few years ago? And if you lived around there, or if you lived by a place that ever had suffered the consequences of an oil spill, what happened to the water, the fish, the wildlife, or the freshwater sources that connect to the ocean or whatever? Would you give your input on how either the cleanup happened or how the spill impacted your daily life? I would really be interested. And what do you think? How can people travel safer on these kind of boats? Please like, comment, or subscribe. Stay with me for the next story. Okay, moving on to our second and possibly the biggest article of the day. A new Russian law could ban trans people from officially changing their gender. by aiming to enshrine a traditional understanding of family. Activists say Russia is making LGBT people as second-class citizens. Now, I'm going to read portions of this article, then I'm going to highlight some parts of it, and then give my opinions. When Irma Vera, a 44-year-old trans woman, found out about the new Russian law that would bar transgender people from changing their gender on their birth certificate, she decided it was finally time to leave the country. I understand that my life is of no value here anymore, Valar told the Moscow Times last week, prior to her departure to seek political asylum in a destination she has not yet named. In a country that classifies them as mentally ill, Russia, transgender people who are not even allowed to drive have long faced discrimination, but proposed amendments to Russia's family code on strengthening the institution of the family will make their lives even more difficult. Activists right say, well, maybe that's what Russia wants to do, is strengthen the family, not special interest. Commonly referred to as Miza's Law, after Yubi Bazuri, the controversial lawmaker who spearheaded the development of the legislation, will be considered by the state coming in later this month. So basically, this article goes into the fact that gay people cannot marry, or trans. Furthermore, they cannot adopt right now, and Russia itself won't even accept that you're married within the country. Yes, you can. There is a loophole in Russia where you can go outside, get married, and then come back and register your gay or lesbian marriage. You know, that's cool. And again, they are kind of against adoption for gay couples. You know, I'm 50-50 on that. I think it's cool. There's plenty of kids, and that's fine. But if Russia wants to promote mother-father households, that's their choice. But it goes a little further because of the whole transgender thing, and that's where I kind of have an issue with them. You know, during Obama's era, before Obama, the army wouldn't take you even if you were gay or transgender or whatever. And it's not just America, but even Korea had that one transgender guy that I can show you that we kept up, and look for a link up here. I will refer to his story. How he was a man, he went for the weekend, he went to Thailand, he came back as a woman, he didn't get approval, it caused controversy while he was in service. In this case, in America's case, they'll go into the army and they'll have the government pay for the sex change versus themselves. And then furthermore, they now, 2-3 weeks ago, there was a couple who eventually divorced, mother, father, and they had a 6-year-old boy, and the mom wanted to turn the 6-year-old boy into a girl. And the boy, a 6-year-old, said, I want it to be a girl too. The father was like, no, he's too young to make decisions. The court, it went to the high courts in America, and the court said, sorry, you father, you have to give in to the mom and the kid, and furthermore, you have to pay for it. So my issue is more or less even with the kids. If a kid can't even buy a cigarette or can't drink alcohol, shouldn't first they have to be old enough to an adult so they are mentally able to make the choices themselves? So that's my issue with these transgenders and wanting all these special treatments. Another special treatment, we have to have special bathrooms. You know, I'm a guy with a girls thing, but guess what? I want to go to the girls' bathroom now. So things like that. When you complain you're a victim, but you want special treatment, then you leave yourself open to being attacked. I'm all for people living your life, doing whatever you want, but don't try to force your views onto other people. So that's where Russia wants to promote strong families. And what do you think about that? Do you think it's wrong if somebody now is a man but they change to woman, that they can't change their birth certificate? Do we have to always go to these political correct words to describe people? You also may recall Sweden. Sweden was full-on non-gay, non-transgender. And then with the last few 5 or 6 years when they opened up immigration, they became one of the most liberal transgenders, like overnight. But it's like the lawmakers decided on this for the citizens. So again, the citizens should promote it. But I'm going to leave the article below. And what do you think about it? Do you think this is Russia trying to suppress it, or do you think the transgender people are just another group of people that want to create chaos and drama for entitlements and privileges and try to tear down the culture of a country? Please leave your inputs below. I really want to know, and I'm sure I've made some people angry, but others are probably going to support me on this. Like, comment, subscribe. All right. Okay. Moving on. China wants U.S. to cease official contact with Taiwan. Beijing, China, September 1st. A foreign ministry spokesperson on Tuesday urged the United States to abide by one China principle and to cease lifting its substantial relationship with Taiwan, as well as forms of official contact with Taiwan. Spokeswoman Hu Chuan made the comments in the response to a U.S. Assistant Secretary of State, the Asian nations. All right. So he announced on Monday that the United States was establishing a new bilateral economic dialogue with Taiwan, aiming to strengthen ties with Taiwan. Strengthening the relationships with Taiwan comes as concerns over China's core interests, Hui said in the daily press briefing that nobody should undermine China's firm resolve and determination to safeguard national sovereignty and territorial integrity. Really? Okay. So the one China principle is the political bias and foundation of the perception for the establishment and development of the China-U.S. diplomatic ties, Hui said, adding that there's only one China and Taiwan, and this is inequivocal part of Chinese territory. Kind of like that Tibet, how China tried taking over Tibet, and they consider Tibet their territory now. And later today or tomorrow, I'm going to share another article where China thinks Mongolia belongs to them, and Mongolians are not happy because they are now having to transition to learn Chinese instead of their native language in their own schools. So, in the response to the CIVA announcement, the declassification of the sixth Reagan-era security aggression to Taiwan, Hui said the so-called Taiwan Relations Act, unilaterally enacted by the United States, so calls the six assurances to Taiwan constitute gross interference in Chinese internal affairs. Well, you know what? So what do you think? I could go on about this, but we heard, if you look up above, I have a card about other countries being proud to claim Taiwan as a country. Just this last week, somebody did, and I wish Vietnam would do the same, since China invades their seas. But what do you think about China? Do they try to force anything on your government? Do they say, no, you must act this way, you must buy our product, you must put these political ideas in practice? What do you think? I don't like how they do that, whether it's in the USA, sometimes. Like Korea was my classic example. Korea had the THAAD missiles for defense against North Korea, and China could crack down on North Korea and stop their nuclear spread, but instead they did not, and they took all Latte Mart, Korean companies' things. So anyway, tell me, what do you think about China? Is this okay? Should we support Taiwan, or should we always bow to China? And not just China, but does any other country that you're in, do they make you, do they put their political beliefs and their customs on you to try to make you part of them, or to belittle your own country? I want to hear your thoughts. Please like, comment, subscribe. Personally, I think nobody should bow to China, or everybody should take pride in their own country, their own language, their own culture, and be happy for who they are. Stay with me. Let's get into the next story. Okay, so our next article of the day comes from Thailand newspaper. Illegal Chinese migrants caught in Tak. Tak is a part of Thailand. So, Tak, 6 Chinese people were arrested for illegally entering Thailand from COVID-19 infection Myanmar earlier on Thursday morning. A team of soldiers, police, and local officials found them inside a white van stopped at a checkpoint on Tak, Mek Sot Road in Bon Hua Phin Phon, Tabloin Ma Phin in Ma Sa district about 1 a.m. The vehicle was registered in the eastern province of Sa Kaeo. They were identified as, and it gives all the names of these 6 people here in the newspaper, so I'm not going to read them out loud, but they were all in their 20s and 30s, and they were all men. So they were all charged illegally for violating the disease-controlled regulations. Well, let's even put aside disease regulations. Even if they did cross when there was no disease, don't they still need to get a passport stamp or a visa stamp? I'm American. I can't go to Canada without a passport, so I don't get that. So yes, they were illegal. And the Thai driver, identified only as Roon, and his assistant, named only as Youth, were charged with assisting in illegal immigration. Good job, Thai. I like governments that are strong enforcing their laws. The 6 Chinese had illegally crossed the border by wading the Mori River, coming from Myanmar's Waidon town. Security against illegal immigration has been tightened along the borders of an outbreak of the COVID-19 in Myanmar, centered in the western state of Rakhine, amid fears that carriers could bring the disease into Thailand. So why is this international news? Well, if China can keep track and keep people in place, it doesn't matter if they're the people that they're harvesting, the Muslims that they're harvesting for their organs, or it doesn't matter if they could put these international laws from Hong Kong that go worldwide to bring people back home who they feel that break their country's laws. If they could be that strict with all these people, then they are looking the other way to cause problems and cause drama in these countries. If you recall, Vietnam, a few weeks ago, the Da Ning was caused by an illegal Chinese person there was many, but one of them was a carrier of COVID. And then there was another illegal Chinese person that came through the north and made it all the way down to Ho Chi Minh and wanted to go to Cambodia to gamble, and he himself was sick. So again, if you're China and you can't keep track of your people, or you're looking that way because you want them to cause problems, then I have no sympathy throwing the book at these people, and I'm proud when the countries stand up. Because in his example, in Vietnam's case, when they cleaned up Da Ning, who paid for that bill? Who paid for all those medical workers that disinfected everything? Who's the one that had all the buses to evacuate everything? Who paid that bill? Who paid the bill, or better yet, for all the employees, companies that had to close down, lose their wages? All because China can't keep track of 6 people or 3 people, yet they can keep track of harvesting Muslim organs. And they can bully everybody else. So anyway, what are your thoughts on this? Am I right or wrong? And how do you feel when your country has to clean up the mess of another country's illegal actions into your country through things like illegal immigration, or sometimes they bring in drugs or whatever, and those still affect your society? So anyway, please leave your comments below, like, comment, subscribe, and I hope your country is as tough on illegal immigration as Thai is. Okay, moving on with the next article. Cambodia plans a controversial new internet firewall. And I bring this up because Thailand tried the same thing a few years ago, 2015, and there was a big backlash, so they backtracked. China, though, does have lots of things. So let's read real fast. Cambodia has laid plans to route its internet traffic through the National Internet Gateway that will allow a country to limit certain content. Plans for the National Gateway were laid out in a sub-decree drafted in July, according to the report. Under the sub-decree, the National Gateway will manage internet connections to improve national revenue collection, protect national security, and ensure social order. Now, the reason I bring this up is because for example, in Vietnam, some people had COVID patients, and they were posting these people with their addresses on the internet, and that was kind of bad. Other times, people will dox you. They'll try to dox you for something you said, like Guardians of the Galaxy 3 director, like 20, 30 years ago, he said something, and then they try to take his job. Other times, you have companies like Facebook or Twitter who regulate whether, even if you're president, they say, we don't allow you to have freedom of speech. Or Facebook, we will allow certain people to post certain things, but we don't want other people to post their thoughts. So, and then you have the U.S. In the U.S., people are using this to assemble and to send firecrackers or whatever, assemble and then burn buildings down, post bad behavior, and again, social disorder. And then you also have, when you have a boyfriend, girlfriend, they date, they get a dirty picture, they break up, the boyfriend posts a dirty picture on Facebook, and then the girl feels all ashamed. But there's no recourse for that. So in some ways, you would think that people will need some kind of thing to monitor social media and keep the community safe. At least that's my thought. Even though I did grow up in the 1980s and 90s where freedom of speech was totally free, but then, even then, you weren't really supposed to go do something violent with your speech. So that's my thoughts on this. And so in this case, they want to do it. Right now, Cambodia can use Facebook and such, but they want people to keep their country safe. So what do you think about that? Do you think that governments should totally allow total freedom with the internet, or should there be some limits, some protocols in case somebody tries to do something bad toward you, or again, like if you said something 10 or 20 years ago and times change, should that be held liable? So what are your thoughts on that? And how is the internet regulated in your country? Please like, comment, subscribe. I would like to know. Okay, moving on. Korea Howitzers picked for the Australian Army. Now this is kind of interesting. Korea is at war with North Korea, but it's interesting because Australia wants to build up its defense. A while ago, we talked about how Australia was paying a lot of money for 3 submarines made by China that were old and outdated, but extremely expensive. Now China and Australia are having a meltdown. But in this case, the Korean Howitzers Defense has won a preliminary bid to supply its K9 self-propelled Howitzers to the Australian Army. So this is a tank in a 1 trillion won procurement project, the company said on Thursday. The final contract is expected to be signed next year after another proposal assessment and the price negotiations. Huanhua is to supply 30 K9 Howitzers and ammunition resupply vehicles to support tanks. The K9 has a range of 40 kilometers and is capable of firing 6 to 8 rounds per minute while maneuvering across diverse terrain. It is already being sold in Finland, India, Norway, Poland, and Turkey. Meanwhile, the Defense Acquisition Program Administration announced to Korea that it's starting the final stages of assembling the fighter jets, KFX fighter jets. They have been around for about 5 years in development. Through the process since the project was greenlit has been much longer. Indonesia came on board in 2010 and agreed to shoulder 210%, well, 20% of the development cost. Wow. So the first prototype jet will be unveiled in the first half of next year. So Korea is making fighter jets on top of these tanks. The two countries hope to complete the epic project by 2026. So there could be yet further delays, but that's fine. But the reason I brought this up is international news. You know, they say the U.S. is the biggest person to spend money for the military, but yet Korea seemed to have the best product for the Australian government. It was not the USA, it was not China, it was Korea. And they also have fighter jets. So does your country sell anything of high value to another country? If so, what is it? And if you do have military contracts with another country, what do you buy from them? And how do you feel about buying defense projects from a different country instead of making them in your home country? Because theoretically, you buy something from another country, like the China submarines, they might exploit you for cost, or they might put hacks in the electrical equipment to where they can sabotage what you buy, or they know everything about it, which is even worse because they know how to disable it later. So anyway, leave your thoughts below, like, comment, subscribe, and I'm actually proud that Korea got this and America did not. That's why, to me, it was really strange. No America, no Korea. I mean, no America, no China. So, yeah. Next article comes from Melmar. While elephants enjoy some rest, humans suffer as COVID-19 Thai tourism. Now, we've heard a lot of articles lately about zoos not closing down, but having a hard time feeding animals because of the COVID. But remember, just as tourism's down, many countries use animals for tourism as well. And not just the animals, but the people's livelihood to care for those animals means they get money to care for the animal, or tips for helping the customers. So let's read the article real fast. One normal day before COVID-19 hit Thailand, a young elephant like Sada worked in an elephant park from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. Sada and the other elephants entertained visitors, took people for rides on their backs, or trained to be good dancers, painters, or football players. When they were visitors, some elephants even had to work till 4 p.m. In Thailand, elephants are a fundamental part of tourism, and the elephant talent show is particularly popular. After the performance, the elephants and their manhots would take visitors on elephant rides around the jungle trailers for about 30 minutes or an hour. They usually were busy until March. Then COVID hit. The deadly global pandemic turned out to be a big blessing in disguise for the 63 elephants, because they get to relax. But no visitors means no tour, no tiresome hours for the elephants to work. But the problem is that they're enjoying their time off, but the caretakers are earning no money, and so therefore they're being laid off, which is okay. But the elephants still require food and exercise and everything else. So besides feeding them, how are you going to exercise, and who's going to pay for these? So I brought this up because tourism is taking a big hit. And I want to know if you worked in the tourism industry, whether it's hotels or maybe a train ride, bus ride, boat ride, I don't know, restaurant, whatever. And how has it affected your type of job you had? And what are you doing now? Are you changing your career path? Are you looking for a different type of income? What do you do to survive? I really want to know that. Personally, it goes on and says the elephants are kind of lonely and they want more people interaction. But they hope the borders open soon, but they're worried how fast people will come back and if animal workers will come back to work with the animals. So what do we do with the animals in the meantime? How do we feed them? So leave your thoughts below. Like, comment, subscribe. I'd like to know. Okay. This is the last article of the day, and this is an update to my last video about where's the beef, and you can see a link up above. Rescued crewman dies and reveals defects with the cattle ship. Records, okay. So, Tokyo, Singapore. Crewman from the cattle ship that capsized en route from New Zealand to China has died after being pulled unconscious from the water by the Japanese Coast Guard on Friday, when it emerged that the vessel had a history of mechanical issues. So here it goes. The unidentified man, who's only the second crewman to be found. The search is still on for the remaining 41 crewmen after the ship carrying 6,000 cattle capsized in the East China Sea on Wednesday. So you might remember that there was one Filipino man who put a life jacket on and stayed afloat, and they rescued him. And he kind of told them what happened, but it looks like he's dead now for whatever medical reason. Rescuers also found the life jacket and cattle carcasses in the area of the Gulf livestock. It is believed to have sunk after it sent a distress call amid strong winds and heavy seas whipping the typhoon Masak. The Gulf livestock, one owned by UAE-based Gulf, lost engine power before it was hit by a massive wave, according to the chief officer. The ship is technically managed by and crewed by Germany, wow, while the commercial manager is based in Hazat Kamsho. I'm not sure where that company is located. So anyway, we are monitoring the situation, and they're still searching where all the beef and cattle is. So in my case, again, pull out your fishing poles, and there were 6,000 cows that were lost in 44 cellars. So let's go fishing and get some beef. Yeah. Well, that will conclude today's Loyal World info. Thank you for spending time with me today. Feel free to like, subscribe, or drop a comment below. Or if you are on the go, listen to my podcast with the link provided in the description. I am on Stitcher and the iPhone store. I will see you tomorrow and share New World info stories. And lastly, all my articles I talked about, all the links are in the description below.